Welcome to all the viewers of Leadership Stories, which is being brought to you by Inroads Leadership Development. In this episode, we'll be speaking to Madhura DasGupta Sinha, who is determined to change the diversity equation of India. Madhura DasGupta Sinha has been a banker for the last 25 years, holding leadership positions in IDFC, Standard Chartered, and ANZ Grindlays Bank. She studied electrical engineering before doing her MBA from XLRI. She launched her social startup, Aspire for Her, on Women's Day 2020, with the mission to motivate young women to join and stay in the workforce. Congratulations, Madhura, on the launch of Aspire for Her Foundation. To start with, would you like to tell us briefly about Aspire for Her and what led you to build a platform like this?
Yeah, thank you, Nija, for having me here. I think it's very special that you and I are speaking on this subject, on the launch of Aspire for Her and what we expect to see going forward. Because you have been an integral part of our journey as well. I've never had a chance to thank you properly, so thank you for that as well.
My pleasure. Anytime for this cause.
Thank you. So, I was thinking of doing something for women in our country ever since I was 18 years old. And, recently I picked up some old conversations that I had, and I realized that I haven't really done anything much. And that's what set me thinking to say that I should actually be doing something really concrete to help girls of our country. I was seeing the gender data emanating from India. And particularly, there were two data points that were very, very disturbing. One was the participation of women in the workforce. So when we joined the workforce, it was in the mid-30s. And I realized that that number has been steadily going down. And it's now come to the low 20s. So at a 23% workforce participation in our country, I felt there was something going wrong. I mean, that itself was a bad number. But the fact that the trend is going downward, to any banker, that, sort of rings alarm bells. And that's what it did in my mind. The second data point that was really sad was the Global Gender Gap Index and India's position in it. So the Global Gender Gap Index is calculated across 153 countries. And there is one particular interesting point in that, which is about economic participation and empowerment of women. So India keeps slipping 3 positions, 4 positions, every year. And I realized that for economic participation, India is 4th from the bottom, with even countries like Saudi Arabia actually being above India. And that was really disturbing. So I asked myself, what can I do? I mean, what have we done to get into this situation? And then I told myself that, I have to be able to answer the question, what have I done to change it? So instead of wringing my hands in despair, I said, let me do something about it. And that's how Aspire for Her was born.
Fantastic. I mean, definitely, we know that there is a dismal situation, but when you call out those numbers is when, the reality of it kind of kicks in, and yeah, anyone would really want to do something about it, especially the ones, like us who've grown and, kind of achieved whatever we've achieved, have to. I think there's no way out but to do something for this. And I'm glad there are platforms like Aspire for Her where we can, join hands and do something around it.
Absolutely.
So, of course, I've been associated with AFH since its inception, right? And we already spoke. This cause is very dear to me. And it also is, I'm sure, for many other women. Now, I've also seen AFH grow through my daughter's eyes. And she joined the first batch of campus ambassadors. And then, of course, she's grown into other roles in the organization. Now, what would you believe are the major differences between leading AFH and any of your prior roles within the banking sector?
It's a very good question, and really making me think hard. I'll actually talk about the similarities first, okay? Because in my entire banking life, I have always seen myself to be part of an inverted pyramid. And what do I mean by that? So I mean that at the top end of that pyramid is my customer. And it actually goes down. So at the bottom end is really the CEO of the bank. And who's really reporting into people who serve the customer and to the people who indirectly serve the customer, the aggregators, etc. So if you see this whole inverted pyramid, I always see myself always at the bottom of that pyramid. And even at Aspire for Her, I think my customers here are the young women who are 18 to 25 years old. They are the people who we're there for. They're the people who we've mainly built the platform for. And I always, uh, I always try to ensure that their views come first. Their point of view comes first. Their feedback comes first. And like I have always listened to customers in my banking life, I think that's what I always do. And many times I realize that I think I have a great idea. And, I tell Sneha and the other ambassadors that, I have this fantastic idea. I want to do it this way. And they just look at me and say, it's terrible. Okay. It's a terrible idea. Okay. Nobody will listen to you. Nobody will think of this in the way in which you're thinking. So please, step aside. And I love doing that because this platform is built by them, for them, and it's of them, really. So I that's what I really enjoy. And I think therefore it's a lot similar to my banking job. But what I really enjoy much more than my banking job is working with really young minds whose motivations are very, very different. And that's been, I think I've met fascinating people over this journey of the last 6 months, Nija, including people like you, who I didn't know before. And I think I've met more interesting people in the last 6 months than I have met in the last 25 years. That would be the big difference, yes.
Absolutely. And who would have thought that, we'll get inspiration from young, girls, our daughter's age or maybe younger than that, because we always look up as, senior leaders for inspiration. But I think there's inspiration all around, for sure. So now I want to really understand what makes the young girls want to work at AFH. Okay, so I see many of them wish to continue after their ambassadorship, which is just a month. But now this is, I think, the 5th or the 6th cohort of ambassadors, and there are girls who continue through. And my assumption was, that they're going to be gung-ho about it. Their first 1 month, it's something new, especially because that was the time when the COVID lockdown had started, and probably it was their summer break for some of them. But now, despite some of them who study, abroad, they've traveled back to those countries, and in India, the girls have started colleges. They still want to, continue. Like I can see Sneha, just not wanting to, move out of Aspire for Her. And they're so committed, not only for the role that has been designated, but they really want to perform beyond that. So definitely, it's not money. That's kind of, something we know. So what is it that makes them, wanting to work for Aspire for Her?
This is actually an amazing piece, and I am actually as fascinated as you are. And I started asking myself this question to say, why is it that they're giving so much of themselves into Aspire for Her? What motivates them? And, I was actually reading a book a few years back, a pretty famous book by Daniel Pink, which you may have read. It's called Drive. And this is about the secret of what actually drives our behavior. And I read the book when I was in my banking space, and I was actually looking at a compensation strategy. And I read the book and I realized I was doing it all wrong. And I think I have lived that book through the eyes of these young girls at Aspire for Her. And I'll tell you why. So that book talks about two things: internal motivation and external motivation. And the intrinsic motivation piece, Pink talks about three things. He talks about autonomy, he talks about mastery, and he talks about purpose. So I think somehow in this magic equation of Aspire for Her, which has grown far beyond what I thought it would grow, frankly, Nija, this magic equation, we have managed to build the perfect recipe of all of these three elements for the girls. So autonomy, meaning they're self-directed, they pick their own projects, they do their own work with very minimal supervision. And as you know, that I sometimes just step back, which is a rarity because usually I don't step in at all, and I just tell them, listen, you do it your way. The message has to be clear, it has to be on strategy, and you have to live the brand of Aspire for Her in everything that you say and do. You're not just an ambassador, you are actually living the brand, And every time you open your mouth, every time you write an email, every time you speak to somebody, you're actually representing Aspire for Her. You have to remember that. I think you see that a lot in Sneha as well. The second bit is mastery, which is actually getting better at something. And I think they're using this vehicle beautifully in order to hone their own skills. So whether it is building your art capabilities, whether it is looking at writing something or writing a blog or maybe working on social media, etc., what I notice is that the girls use this platform very beautifully to build on their skills, showcase their skills, and so that when the world comes out and something has gone out of their desk, they're really proud of it. So they themselves are very self-motivated to make their own work a lot better. So I think that's the second factor that works. And of course, the third one is the most important, which is purpose. The reason why all of us are together, all the stakeholders have come together on this platform, is because they strongly believe in the purpose of this platform. And the minute you actually elevate yourself above the immediate target or above any organization as well, right? Or above the exact P&L or the financials that you need to chase, and you delve a little deeper and find the purpose of your work, the work becomes so much more meaningful. And you don't need any money. You actually then don't need any money to perform that, right? So I do see that across Aspire for Her, and people are so keen to give back. And people are so keen to sort of build this warp and weft of this beautiful fabric that we're all trying to get together. I think these three factors all come together, not only for the young ambassadors and for the core team members, but also for everybody else who's associated with it.
So I haven't read the book, but there have been 2 sessions when, I have heard someone speak about this. And now it kind of, makes me realize that theory which I heard. Yeah, I'm seeing it in practice, but it didn't, I didn't realize till you told me about it right now.
I was living those elements in the book, and I was just thanking Pink that, what a brilliant man. He's kind of shown me why this is happening, because I was completely fascinated by this entire journey, actually.
Wonderful. Now let's come to, the mentors on this platform. And me being a mentor on this platform, it has also enabled me to network as well as learn from so many esteemed senior women leaders, right? And I have been really envious and overwhelmed at your networking and relationship building abilities, which has resulted in such a diverse and power-packed mentor panel on Aspire for Her. Now, tell me how you have managed to nurture these relationships. And I'm sure whenever you started, getting into relationships with all these women across all these years, you didn't think there will be an Aspire for Her and I will have to get them on board as mentors, right? So how do you go about, building a relationship and nurturing it all through these years?
So if you really ask me this question about, what have I done to sort of get this fantastic mentor panel together? The answer is simply one word: nothing. Okay, I've actually done absolutely nothing. Because these are all friends. It started off as a small circle of friends who I met in B school, who I know them for so many years. I met in school, some of them from school, some of them from college, some of them from work situations, etc. And it all started with a very small group of friends when we started in the month of March. I would notice that the minute I start speaking to somebody about it, usually within about 60 seconds, they get it. Okay. And about 90% of them get it. And those 90% of them are the ones who are actually very keen to give back and become mentors with us. But very soon I realized that, this circle was not just my friends. And people were hearing about us, people were reading about us, they were seeing us on social media. And I had people calling me from across the world, literally, telling me, hey, we love what you're doing and we want to be part of this. And, I just have one rule, that I just have one conversation with the person, and I use my 59-second rule. And, I just see if the person gets it, and which means that in vision, in values, they're exactly aligned. And I just welcome them aboard. That's it. So it's very, very simple. And now there are more mentors who I never knew in my past life. And it's so wonderful that every day I literally get calls from people who just want to be part of this wonderful platform, and it's their platform, frankly. I have ceased to think that Aspire for Her is my platform, because it is a platform for all of us. It's a platform for the mentors, the members, the ambassadors, the supporters, and all the stakeholders, all our partners, and they treat it like their platform. So I think that's the wonderful part of having Aspire for Her.
Yeah, so definitely, for me, the network and the branding are two key takeaways from this, because you need to have somewhere to start off with, right? And that was your initial, inner circle of network, which you kind of had over the last so many years. And then you build the brand over the last few months. But yes, I also see that if it is a passionate purpose that, you kind of are driving, then, it just attracts people. You really don't have to do a hard selling.
That 59. No, I don't sell to anyone actually, and it is that 59-second rule really. It just sort of gets to people instantly, and those people who actually don't get it instantly, and people who have to be sort of explained, they are probably not the right mentors for us at this point in time. So yes.
Sure. So I also know that Aspire for Her is also getting into a lot of alliances, right? So I know that you are partnering with corporates, skilling organizations, educational institutions, colleges, maybe some CSR funding organizations, job portals, and also other kinds of resources, like I knew the words matter, the My Captain, and all of that. So the question is more because I also headed a not-for-profit organization where building partnerships was, of course, one of the key focus areas, and I knew, how challenging it was. So how have you gone about, getting this right?
I don't know whether we are anyway close to where we want to be. I think there's a lot more ground to be covered, Anija, frankly. You know that we have lots of plans for doing a whole lot of other stuff. But yeah, we have been talking to various sorts of partnerships, but I actually use a sort of a model in my mind. And I'm just going to show you that model a little bit so that you know as to how the partnership philosophy actually works. And there's a sort of a structure in this whole madness as well. So that's how we typically get it going. Can you see my screen? Okay. So we actually work on a 5-pillar model at Aspire for Her because we want to motivate young girls to enter and stay in the workforce, right? These are very key operative words, and I think like an engineer. So therefore, I have these 5 pillars that I always like to think as a framework and as a structure in our model. The first model, of course, is mentors and role models. We've talked about it. And we have a bunch of interesting people who are all there, who are there to support us in this journey. The second bit is learning opportunities, where we work on a lot of alliances. So right now, you know that tomorrow we are launching our alliance with VMware on cloud computing careers. Next Friday, we're launching an alliance with IBM and the Open PTech platform. We already have a running alliance with edX, and this is about career-focused learning. This is a space where we will look at a lot of interesting alliances wherein girls can actually look at learning opportunities as opening doors and windows to new careers. This piece is career previews, and we work with mentors and others to show the girls a view of the way forward if they choose a particular career, and sometimes also open their mind to new possibilities, as well as create the point to say that your academic path need not exactly be your career path in the future. I'm an electrical engineer and I did banking all my life. So that's the piece that we want to give in here. Alliances really work best in this space, the 4th pillar, where we're talking about the 3 E's of employment, entrepreneurship, and education. So as you said rightly, on the employment piece, we have partners who are diversity-focused hiring, recruitment organizations. We have partners who are into skilling. We have partners who are into actual just job portals, etc., both in India and in the US. On the entrepreneurship side, we have a partnership with Global Alliance of Mass Entrepreneurship. They're a mass entrepreneurship ecosystem provider. And on the education side, we have IMS, which is looking at, which is looking at being an education partner for the girls as they look at their career ahead, higher education. So this is the space, and this is the space where alliances have really worked the best. And of course, you know all about the peer community, which actually works very beautifully with the ambassador program and everything else. So, so that's the structure in which we use for making alliances. But there's also a cultural element in this whole thing, Neja. And I think that the proper word I'm looking for is we are ruthless. Okay, and that doesn't seem to go in with the cultural vision of Aspire for Her. I know you'll be surprised to hear this word, but we always look for an organization that has a similar vision to ours. Okay, and they have their heart in the right place, and they are looking at diversity with the same lens as we are looking at it with. They're not looking at a tick box sort of exercise. They're not looking at just checking some parameters here and there. But if they genuinely feel about the cause, it's only then that we actually tie up for an alliance. So therefore, I always have a conversation with the founder. And now we have so many, it does take a long time for us to do that. But I always have a conversation with the founder, make sure that they are supporting us for the right reasons, and then go ahead with the alliance. So and that so far we've been lucky. We've managed to find all of these like-minded people. So I think that's worked well for us so far, but we have a long way to go. And I'm sure that rest of the journey will be exciting as well.
Sure. So now I understand the ruthless. And yeah, I think if the commonality of purpose is not there, I don't think this is going to go a long way. And I'm glad that you're not going to lower the bar
Exactly.
at any point in time. When it comes to the reasons behind the partnership.
Absolutely. And it's true for the corporate world as well, because even in corporate India, all of us know that there are many organizations which just look at diversity as a sort of, nice to do thing. Okay, they don't really believe in the cause. And those are not the organizations that we will tie up with, ever.
Tell me, how you identify the roles and responsibilities to give to the young ambassadors? Because when they join, they are all, like just out of college or in college. And you wouldn't be able to assess, I'm guessing, on day one. Sometimes it takes us a month to understand, what they are good at. And then I've seen that based on their performance, in the week or the month that goes, you do move some of them to your core team, which is now, I don't know how many of them are there. They started at 6, I think, and now
now it's much more. Yes.
Yeah. So you actually graduate them out of the ambassador into these core teams, right? And I've seen that because I've closely seen Sneha. So continuously challenging them towards their areas of expertise and to own up that and really kind of perform. Now, many great leaders in organizations, large organizations have this as one of their big focus areas, but they have a large HR team, and then they will have these employee resource groups and all of that to take care of this. And here you are a single woman army. How do you do this?
So, really good question again. And I think what tends to happen is that I can actually see them in the future. So when the girls actually join us as ambassadors, I take a little bit of time because I see them for the month to see what is happening, what they're doing, how they're reacting to situations, how they're responding, etc. And I can actually see what's going to happen to them in the future. I don't know how I do that, but I think it sort of just comes to me. And I then look at giving them roles which I feel will add value to their future. So I can see some of them as marketing leaders. I can see some of them as strategy leaders. I can see some of them as technology leaders. And I can actually, and not a lot of it has to do with what they're studying now or doing now. Okay. So I sort of see their, the way in which they react to us in certain situations. And then I sort of try to put them in roles that will help them in their future career. We are very, very picky about who we choose to move from the ambassador community into the core team. So it does take a lot to cover certain mental barriers in my mind to make sure that the person actually is the right fit for the team, for the same reasons that we choose alliances in the right way. So I think that's been a sort of a psychic sort of a moment for me. And across my career, actually, I've seen that happening, because sometimes I have put people in completely different jobs, and it's worked out pretty well. So I've seen their strengths, I've seen their motivations, I've seen how they react, I think, primarily, and I think that's what's helped me sort of place them in the right boxes. But they need to be challenged all the time, because you need to push out of that comfort zone. And I keep telling them to do that. So if somebody has never appeared on an interview before, I push them to do the webinar. If somebody has never written before, then I push them to write. Maybe they'll have to write 10 drafts before it actually becomes a good blog. If somebody has not done social media before, then I tell them to try and understand, learn about it, and get into that. Because if I feel that there's a potential for the person to do well over there, then I push them like that. So it's quite challenging, intellectually and otherwise. And you're right that the girls have less time now, so it is quite challenging. But they're doing a wonderful job. I'm so proud of them.
No two questions about it. Wonderful is a small word, I mean, the entire team that you have is doing a brilliant job. But, and psychic is the word, Madhura, because while I try to keep my hands off, Sneha, when it is aspire for her, because, I mean, it's her and you. I should not meddle. But, that HR perspective of mine from the past, it does come in.
Knocking in.
Yeah,
right?
And I sit down, and I still remember when she was handling the social media strategy.
Right.
I sat down with her one day and said, and because she was also doing more, right? She was also doing a little bit of alliance. I said, why don't you sit down and create a dashboard in terms of all that you've achieved and see where your strengths are. And the next day she comes and tells me, Madhura actually did she calls me Madhura ma'am. So Madhura ma'am actually did a reorganization and I'm now managing alliances. I said, really? Yeah, kudos to you. And that really means, you kind of are able to, watch from a distance and still being able to, identify that strength and, see that, okay, fine, let's push them so that they're able to perform beyond and learn something.
My whole thing is that each of these experiences also prepare them for their life, their professional life in the future, right? The fact that they have to make a presentation to me at times, the fact that they have to sort of talk to a bunch of people or make some people learn something, all of those are skills that will help them hugely in their professional lives. And I'll tell you one example or two examples where I was so stunned by the way in which the team reacted. And I'm telling you, in the largest of large, best organizations in the world, their teams would not have reacted in that way, with the speed and the alacrity with which this team reacts and the way in which they embrace change is absolutely amazing. So there was this wonderful campaign that we were planning on Disney Princess, okay? And, Anusha had created all these princesses and, each of the princesses had a very professional avatar. Somebody was a chef and, somebody was something and, somebody was a doctor, etc. So all of that, wonderful campaign. We had planned it for 3 weeks and we were planning an Instagram launch. There was an Instagram filter which she had designed and there was everything was all ready. And suddenly the Black Lives Movement, started and the internet was taken by storm. This team took about 15 minutes to take a call. We were going to pull this campaign off. We had gone to Instagram influencers. We had gone all over the place telling people that please support us in this campaign because we're launching it at so-and-so day, etc. 15 minutes, we took a call. We changed everything, retraced all the steps and said, okay, we're not launching it tomorrow because this was happened. We don't want to seem insensitive to what's happening in the world, and let's pull out this campaign. Best teams in the world to pull out a well thought out campaign where so much of work had gone behind it would find it very difficult to move the ship. And this is what the team did. So, and everybody worked towards it. Every individual came in, gave in their thoughts, worked on their piece. It was almost like a racing car pit stop change, actually, if you really visualize that. And that's what happened. And then we were off again saying, hey, we're changing our strategy, moving forward, putting in something else, talking about how we support Black Lives Matter, and move on from here. So I thought in the best organizations in the world, this would have been a fairly challenging process, and I was very proud of my team to have done that. And they give this example, this sort of example almost every week, something or the other happens like this. So yes.
Yeah, so I'm really sensing there's definitely the leadership that has to be kind of spoken about, and the kind of leadership that you can demonstrated as fire for her. And I don't definitely you would have demonstrated in all your early organizations, but I haven't watched that, but I've seen this. Be it building your team, the community, the partnerships, the mentors, the platform itself, the brand presence. And I'm kind of wanting to use the word influence, right? Whether it's passion, purpose, or whatever, let me use the word influence and you tell me whether that's the right word. Now, influence sometimes comes from positional power, right? So I'm the boss, I'm the manager, I'm the leader, and hence I have the positional power to reward you, to punish you, and I can get a lot of stuff done. But here I think of myself and all the mentors. We don't do anything because we see a carrot or a stick and hence we have to do it, right? Neither do I see Sneha, my daughter, and the rest of the team members who continue to focus on their roles and responsibilities, worried about say a performance appraisal or will I get promoted and things like that. So that's why I feel that this is influence and not necessarily with authority, right? There is that authority is not there. It's just kind of influencing without authority. So what is that one last message that you would like to leave with all our viewers about using the power of influence in all their personal and professional endeavors?
Great question again. And, influence is actually my favorite subject. And, I've been doing a little bit of a reading on it for a very long time. There's a very interesting guy called Roberto Cialdini, who actually writes about influence. And I started thinking about it first many years back when in a role, I moved from, a direct authority position to a place where I had to influence a whole lot of more people. And they were not reporting into me. So I found it quite difficult to first bring myself attuned to the idea that I would have to get them to do something that I want them to do without having any direct influence on their outcomes, which is all the usual things, right? Your promotion, your rating, your bonus, and all of that. So, and that's when I started reading up a little bit about it. And this gentleman talks about 6 factors of influence. And I love frameworks, so this is another framework which I like. But I won't get into all the 6 factors. But the most important one that stands out for me is reciprocity. And I think I use that the most in my personal life, and definitely have been privileged to use it in AFH as well. That means that you treat others. It's very simple. It means you treat others the way in which you would like to be treated. And I think that's the piece that has been the best for us, whether it is just a member or an ambassador or a supporter or a mentor or a very, very, very special alliance partner that we're talking to, or whoever it is, at whichever part of the stakeholder map that they fall into for Aspire for Her. I have tried to use this principle. I've tried to ensure that I treat them just as I would like to be treated. And I think that's why it's worked. So far, it's worked very well for us. And I hope that this principle of reciprocity in this influence-based sort of journey that we are going on will help us even further to build it to become a stronger brand.
Definitely it has worked and it will continue to work. Thank you for taking out time to share such a wonderful, insight about your leadership style. And I'm sure if this is imbibed by all who are watching, they wouldn't have to then become a typical boss and, have a boss-subordinate relationship in terms of achieving both the team and the organization's vision. So wishing you and Aspire for her more power and, all the very best, and looking forward to seeing a more equitable, gender situation in our country soon. And to all our viewers, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leadership Stories. We'll be back soon with another inspiring leader and their leadership story. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much, Neeja. Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you.